Hi everyone, welcome back. I have about 10 pounds of peaches and I need to do something with them. I've kind of gone back and forth about what to do and decided that I'm just going to go ahead and can them instead of freezing them or turning them into peach butter, which sounds amazing, but I have quite a bit of apple butter still in my pantry from last fall, and so I don't want to overwhelm my pantry with things that it's going to take us a lot longer to get through. So I figured canned peaches is going to be great. I've always wanted to do this, so this is actually my first time canning peaches. I've canned apples and things like that, but usually every fall I'll do applesauce, and I've done apple pie filling, but I've never done peaches and I've always wanted to. So I think this is going to be the summer to do it, so let's get cooking. Okay, so as you can see, I say approximate 10 pounds of peaches just because I had to throw 3 away. So we're going to see how many this gives us. And I think what I'm going to be doing is putting them into pint jars versus quart. But once I get all this peeled and then sliced, I'll kind of go from there and make my decision on what size jars that I'm going to use. So, okay. All right. So now we're going to get going on peeling and slicing the peaches. Welcome back. My peaches have been peeled and sliced and are ready to go. Now I am going to be putting some fresh fruit on top of the peaches. This will allow the peaches to not brown, or this will help them to not brown. And so that's what you want. You do not want your peaches to be sitting aside and turning brown before you're ready to can them. It just is not as appetizing to look at, and so there are directions on the bottle. However, I decided just to sprinkle and go. You can take the time to measure how many cups of peaches you have and then sprinkle according to the directions. However, the way I did it worked just fine. Now I do have this Back to Basics Ball cookbook. This is the recipe I'm following. I like to have a couple of different types of canning books around. Some are easy, like the Back to Basics are just very simple recipes. The others could be a little bit more complicated, a little bit more time consuming. I just wanted a really simple recipe for these peaches. Now, the recipe itself allows you to choose between 2 different types of simple syrup on how sweet you want it. And so I did decide to go with a heavy simple syrup. I also decided to add in vanilla bean. They do have recommendations of different flavors that you can add in that won't interfere with the safety of the canning process. You can't just add anything and everything to it because it can mess it up. But vanilla bean was on the list, and I thought, you know what, since I had some extra vanilla beans left over from homemade extract, I would go ahead and use that. So now I have my sugar and water stirred. I'm going to go ahead and get my vanilla beans open. I am going to go ahead and split them down the center and then try to scrape out some of the seeds just to get the process kind of started. I will be putting the vanilla pods into the simple syrup as well. That will hopefully help pull out some additional seeds. I don't like to try to waste any of the seeds if I can help it. Now, sometimes you just can't escape that, but it'll be fine. And so now I'm going to put it on the stove and let it cook until all of the sugar is dissolved. And then once it is, I keep it on low because you want to keep your syrup hot while you are working on getting your peaches into the jars. Now, this bean that I pulled out had been in the simple syrup for a little bit, and so I'm just scraping some additional seeds out of there. Again, trying to get as many as I can. You do want to make sure that you're not actually pulling the pod and getting the pod pieces stuck in there, so just be careful with that. But you can see all those little vanilla beans stuck in there, or I should say floating in there. That is what I'm looking for. Water bath canner is now ready. And so now it's time to start getting my jars together. Now, before I do any canning, I always clean my jars and sterilize them, and I like to keep them in my oven at a low temperature. I believe it's about 175 degrees I have it at. I did opt to cold pack these peaches just because I didn't want to take the time to cook them and then can them ahead of time, just because I wanted my peaches to have some firmness to them still. I didn't want them to be so soft because they've been cooked and then they've been canned. And so the cooking is just a hot pack. you follow the directions. A lot of times things can have options of either cold packed or hot packed. You just choose what works best for you. I opted to do the cold pack. Now, what I also opted to do was to stretch my peaches just a touch further. I wasn't sure, again, this is the first time I've ever done it, if I was over packing my jars. As I began to fill it with the simple syrup, I did notice that I wasn't sure if the syrup was really going to have enough room with the jars with them being so packed. So I did decide to pull some out. Now, as you could see, I pulled out my vanilla bean pods and then I whisked in just to kind of spread the vanilla beans around a little bit. And then I'm just using all of my tools to get my simple syrup over the peaches. And again, I'm going to continue this process, and then you will see that I am going to pull a few out and then spread them out a little bit more. Again, this is trial and error. I'm not too concerned about whether or not I pack too many or too little in a jar. My biggest concern is whether or not they are canned safely, and they are. All of them sealed at the end, and so that's what I'm most concerned about. Okay, now that I keep refilling and adjusting, and you'll see this, I wound up with more jars than I initially had expected. Again, just moving them around. I think what happened is the illusion of, because peaches are light, as I added in the syrup, they kept rising and it made it look like there was more in there than what I expected. But again, it's okay. It's not that big a deal. I'm just going to keep, moving them around a little bit. Now you want to make sure once you do have your jars packed and you're ready and you've put your simple syrup on, you do want to make sure that you remove any air bubbles from the jar before you put the lids on. And don't forget to clean the rim of your lid, put your lids on, and then seal them. Now I'm getting them into the water bath canner and getting them ready to process. You will see that you're going to set the timer for 25 minutes, and that's how long. But remember always to follow the directions of what your canning book tells you. Okay, so the 25-minute timer went off, and so I'm just going to, oh no, I might have lost a jar, it looks like. That was loud. I can't tell if a jar cracked or not. So we're going to set the timer for 5 minutes and let this sit. I can't tell. Oh, see, now I got to know real quick before I set the timer. I can't tell if it's just because it's laying on its side. I've had that happen before where I've had a jar crack. Oh, no, it didn't. Okay, it looked like it did, but it did not. Okay, whew, thank goodness. Okay, so we're gonna let this sit for 5 minutes and then I'm gonna pull it out. So it's been 5 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and pull everything out. I couldn't fit it all in there, and what I probably should have done was leave them as packed as what they were. I just felt like there wasn't gonna be maybe enough syrup on them, so that's why I was taking peaches out to put them in others. But you can see, I mean, right now they're hot, so I have quite a bit of liquid here. This may be fine. This is my first time doing peaches, so I'm not 100% sure. I'm just trying to follow the directions, though the directions weren't explicitly clear on how packed they should be. So it's a learning curve. I know these are going to be fine. They're going to be safe to eat. That's not the issue at all. It's just whether or not I really needed to spread them out as far as what I did. Of course, this has a little bit more in there, so you know what, trial and error. As long as they are canned safely, that is the biggest thing for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these out and then turn the water bath canner on because I have a few more jars that didn't fit that need to be processed. And then I'm gonna take the rest of the vanilla simple syrup that I made for the peaches and I'm gonna put those in little 1/2 pint jars and I'm gonna process those as well. So I'm gonna let those start to sit, and then I put my jars in the oven. The oven was still warm. Because I didn't realize that I was going to be splitting them up a bit more, didn't have enough room in the water bath canner. So and because the Vanilla Bean simple syrup cans at a different time, I'm going to just go ahead and do the peaches first, because I want to give them 5 minutes to sit outside or lift them up a little bit from the water. And so I don't want to interrupt anything, even when it comes to the simple syrup as well. So we're just going to do these in separate batches. The peaches are done, and now I'm going to can the simple syrup. I did not want to waste any of this Vanilla Bean simple syrup. I can use it to put a simple syrup on cake layers, or I can use it in cocktails when we have friends over. These are going to be shelf stable. Again, keep in mind this is what's on the peaches, so if that can be shelf stable, so can this with no peaches in it. And so I'm going to go ahead and get everything into my half-pint jars, and then I'm going to go ahead and get them processed. And I want to say that I processed these for 10 minutes. Now, I did have one jar that was left over that just went into the fridge. So if you can't fill them all the way full, you can put that into the refrigerator. And simple syrup will last for at least a month or two in the refrigerator, as long as it is covered and hasn't been exposed to any food products. Okay, I just want to thank you guys for joining me today. I got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 pints of peaches, though because I took some out, and I probably will next time pack them a bit more. I probably should have just stuck with about 9 of them, but that's okay. This is a learning experience, and I don't mind sharing that with you guys as I'm learning, as well as you guys maybe. Or if you've canned a lot and you know, would you have packed it all the way down and just had a little bit of liquid in here to fill? It was really kind of hard for me to say, but this is perfectly fine. I don't mind having trial and error when it comes to doing canning. I know that these are safe. All the lids are sealed. So if we only get a little bit at a time, that's perfectly fine. It's not a big deal. I was able to get 4 half pints of Vanilla Bean simple syrup, and what I plan to do with this is I can use this in any cocktails that we make that need simple syrup, or when I make cakes or cupcakes or something like that. A lot of times I like to brush them with a little bit of simple syrup. So this will just give me some shelf stable simple syrup to have on hand, and this is going to be good for up to a year. And if I open it and put it in the fridge, it'd be just a couple of weeks. So I have this one that I did not water bath can. I've let it cool, and this will go into the fridge, and then we'll just use this for whatever we're going to use it for. So I just want to thank you guys for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great one. Bye.